Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rich Equation. Dr. Ryan is here in the house. Welcome, Dr. John Ryan.
Thank you so much, Ashish, for having me. I've been excited, looking forward to being here.
I am so excited for this conversation. We've been trying to plan this for the last few weeks, and I'm really excited. Every time we meet and we work together, my mind is just blown. And the things that you do with your clients and the things that you're working on, they really have amazing impact on people's ability to actually get stuff done and manage themselves and get the results they want. So I'm really excited to share with people today your content and your perspective. And so I'm just super excited for this conversation.
Awesome. Me too. Really looking forward to it.
So I guess let's just start with, and let's kind of start with, I mean, you lead, but let's start with your main subject matter, which you've been helping me with in the last few months, which is NLP. And NLP is Neuro-Linguistic programming. And give us a little bit of explanation in your words. What is NLP and how can people think about NLP and what it can do for people?
Yeah, happy to explore, and thank you for bringing up my absolute favorite topic on the planet. It's something I've been studying since 1996, and so this is my 25th year in the world of NLP. I'm a master trainer of NLP. It took me 18 years to get to the designation. It doesn't mean I know everything about NLP. NLP is a growing field, but let's kind of start by breaking down, what is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, as you so well communicated just a moment ago, and why do we even care about NLP? Most people have heard about NLP. Maybe they have good feelings or not good feelings, or maybe they haven't heard about NLP. NLP, as you said, neuro-linguistic programming, it's really about how to use our minds, how to use our brains to get results. And how does it do that? It comes from studying success. People who have achieved certain results, well, there's certain, as Tony Robbins would say, success leaves clues. There's certain clues and things that they do that you can get rid of, like most of what they do, and only do these core things, and you're going to get the same results, if not better, because it didn't take you years and years and years to discover the formula. You just kind of willed it down into the core elements, and now you can reproduce it over and over again. So that works in business, works in relationships, works in health. And if you really look at successful leaders, they do NLP, whether they were trained in NLP or not. They do NLP because NLP is really, in my opinion, the science of success and fulfillment.
So give us an example of one habit, one behavior that leaders can use, or maybe they subconsciously are using already that they don't know, so that people can easily relate to, like, oh, okay, I get that.
Well, sure. Happy to do that. And I think what's really powerful about NLP is it becomes so simple. I like to keep it simple. If it's complicated, we're not going to use it. It's got to be something really simple. So let's start with something simple. We can go more advanced if you want to. If you really step back and look at, what is the key for success for a leader, for someone in sales, business development, in a relationship, one of the powerful things is empathy. Now, NLP doesn't talk specifically, they don't have a class and a course on empathy, but by understanding the principles of NLP, and even Stephen Covey, for that matter, seek first to understand before being understood, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people, it's having the power of empathy, because when you do, in NLP, it's called first person and second person, or first position, second position. When you step into someone else's shoes, and you really see the world from their eyes, not how you'd see it from your perspective if you were in their shoes, but where are they coming from? What are their values? What are their goals? What are their beliefs? What are their experiences? What are their fears? What are their concerns? And understand that, well, from a leader, you're going to be a better leader. You're going to help them overcome that obstacle and achieve the outcome that they're looking for, because you're not solving the problem you think they have, you're solving the problem that they actually have. If you're working in sales, same thing. To really understand the customer's needs, that's the power of sales. If you don't understand what the customer needs, and a leader is in sales too, they're just selling the employees on the vision. They're selling them on themselves, that they can do it, and empowering them along the way. The whole concept is that everything in life is sales. Well, if you want to be really good at sales, even selling your partner on why they should stay with you. Well, we better get pretty good at empathy. And that comes from respecting the other person's model of the world. So many people think it's about the techniques, Ashish, and I'm happy we can do some visualizations if we want to, if it goes in that direction. But the first, what's called a presupposition of NLP, which is something that we assume to be true. Not necessarily that it is true 100% all the time, but if you adopt this, that you're going to be more effective, is respect for the other person's model of the world. Which means I got to ask questions. I got to find out where they're coming from. In other words, develop empathy and step into their shoes. Once we have that, then the whole world, the map is in front of us, and then we can make a decision about where we go.
I love that. And that really is a really great framework for how leaders have to lead today, right? Because people are so much more emotionally intelligent. They have better tools, better information, better technology. They're expecting their leaders to be better at communicating to them. What is the number one tip you find giving to your clients, or what do you see in terms of like how leaders can better communicate with their teams and their colleagues?
I think we can look at it. Let's do a little bit of modeling real quick so we can build on empathy. Let's say that you're really good at stepping into your leadership team's shoes, understanding how they view the goals and the obstacles that are for them. And then you got to communicate with them. Well, the next step would be to find out even more about their values, and then bringing those values into the conversation, connecting the what, that would be the goals, with their why. Like Simon Sinek, if we look at him and start with why. Yeah, you got to start with why. Okay, cool. You got to start with the why. But once you know the why, then what's the next thing with the why? Well, you got to stay connected to the why. You got to keep on developing and utilizing that why. Otherwise, we're just doing things without fulfillment, without meaning, without purpose. And there's a big difference between a commitment and compliance. And I think that's the shift that you're kind of talking about, is the social emotional intelligence and responsibility and ownership, that in today's modern world, where in 2025, we're going to have 50% of our workforce is going to be the millennial generation, which they have values and they care about their values being fulfilled. It's not about do it because I said it and this is the way it should be done. They want to know why. So start with why, as Simon Sinek would say, and then stay connected to that why. Otherwise, I'm talking to you about what motivates me, and I'm not really speaking your language and what motivates you.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, right now, especially after all this COVID, work from home, people are so much more in tune with what gives them fulfillment, right? Personally, professionally, what really motivates you to get up in the morning and go to the office and bust your butt for the company you work for. And there's just this really intense dialogue, the massive resignation conversations are going on. And, you and I have talked about this whole, and I struggle with this as well, about, what does it mean to be a conscious leader? And I want to break this up into two parts, right? Is that the first part, which is what we were just talking about, is how do you really communicate to your team more about purpose than probably we've ever done in the past? So what is the goals? What are the values? What's the purpose? Why are we doing what we're doing? And some of the struggles I have are, do I share my purpose, or do I have to build the company around the employee's purpose or what they think they need to do, right? So there's a dichotomy there where people have their own needs and desires and wants, and then the company does. And how do you create a really healthy ecosystem where those can cohabitate and the company and the businesses can thrive, right? And how do you foster that communication? We'll answer that, and then I'll get to my second part, which is the conscious leadership part.
Answer that. That's a $1 billion question right there, right? So let's just answer that next 5 minutes. Then we'll go to part 2 of the question.
Please, thank you.
I appreciate that. So you're right. This is a real issue that leaders are struggling with. Okay, so we have corporate mission, vision, and values, and then you have maybe team mission and outcomes and objectives they need to hit, and then we also have the individual values and outcomes that they have, and they're not necessarily aligned. But when we get together in that executive retreat and we do the brainstorming and everyone comes together with their words and we throw it up on a whiteboard or a flip chart, and then we all agree that these are the top 10 values and this is where we're going as a company, it seems like we're all on the same page. Mm-hmm. We are literally on the same flip chart page, but that doesn't mean we're all looking at it from the same perspective, because behind all that is the hidden values, the hidden goals, hidden outcomes that they're just not willing to share. And that is always running simultaneously. So the degree to which you and I, if we're working in a company on the same team, can work together is the degree to which our values and our visions and our work ethic and our culture align and overlap. Mm-hmm. If they do, great, then we can tolerate differences in that regard. And sometimes they need to be brought out. And sometimes it's not relevant, but a lot of times we have to bring these things out because people are no longer separating work life with personal life. We're seeing this time and time again. This is my identity. This is what I stand for. And if you as a company don't back up my values on the environment, gender, pay inequity, diversity issues, and things like that, well, then I don't want to be a part of this organization anymore either. So these things where we used to suppress them, I think back in 80s and 90s, like you didn't bring your personal stuff to work. That wasn't part of it. And now these things are becoming part of the discussion. And how do we deal with diversity of opinions and different belief systems? And how do we create a place of respect, even if we don't necessarily believe the same thing and value the same thing? It's coming into the boardroom, and it's very difficult conversations.
What is causing such a drastic change in this conversation? What is evolving that is causing us to have this conversation today? Is it you know, and I know it's an open-ended question, but like, is it the times? Is it technology? Is it our human consciousness? Is it what is it, the fact that we have more information now? Why are we here today?
I think it would be, of course, reductionistic to say it's just this. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly not any one variable. I think it's a confluence coming together of all of those things that you just said: technology, the times that we live in, but also there's the evolution of society in general, right? So we're not the same culture in the United States that we were back when World War II happened. We're just not. You know, we're different. You know, we've been in a war for 20 years that is now ending, you know, and everyone has their own opinions and all that kind of stuff. And that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. But our mindset as a culture is changing. We're no longer just getting focused on outcomes. We're now, I think, beginning to shift as a country into ecology and impact. So we can achieve, for example, just look at the workforce. Let's bring it down into tangible workforce. You can achieve outcomes. You can work 60, 80 hours a week and have your family and just say, hey, listen, you got to suck it up. This is what I got to do. And I'm going to work really hard. And 30 years from now, I'm going to get that gold watch and I'm going to be happy and we can retire and go live our life and things like that. But then divorce rates increase. And then you're like, well, why am I working so hard at the expense of my relationship? Well, maybe I dial it back a little bit because the impact, the ecology of sacrificing all for the career impacts my family, which is what I really want, is just to be happy and fulfilled and contribute and leave a legacy in the world and with my family. So I think there's a shift, and the millennial generation is very aware of that. They've seen the impact of the myopic nature of focusing on outcome and disregarding impact. And now they're like, no, we have to bring in ecology into all of our conversations. And that's why even in investing, there's the shift to ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And so there's an initiative there. It's everywhere around us. The world is continuing to change. I don't think there's any way we can put that toothpaste back in the tube. And I'm not sure that we should. I think we should have some of these important conversations to find that harmony. I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but it's going to be an exciting ride along the way.
How are the conversations with the leaders that you work with? And I'm an example of that, and I'd love to talk about my experience. But like, what do this is something that everyone is trying to increase their awareness and consciousness as they become leaders. What are the What are the challenges that leaders are having internally or in their own heads about this topic?
I think for a lot of leaders, I'm noticing it is letting go.
There it is.
Not letting go, you know what I mean? Like letting go
I know.
of responsibility. Like I built this company or I grew it, from where we were, 5 million, now we're 50 million. And I'm not sure. So of course there's trust and confidence, and you can't give over the reins if there's not any of that's in the place. But still there's a lot of old school. I mean, let's say for people in our generation, if I can include ourselves in the same generation, right? We grew up like this is what you did, and your identity was tied into work. And so now for the next generation, it's just a piece. It's a piece of the puzzle. So the world is changing. How do we let go of that and know that it doesn't mean that you're less valuable or less important in the company? You're still there, but our roles are changing. So in a way, we're not just letting go of responsibilities, we're letting go of our vision of what it used to be a successful leader, successful entrepreneur, depending on the role that you're in.
Okay, so we're going to go deep now. Here we go. Ready? So we as leaders often identify ourselves by the companies we build or run. And as I've gone through this conscious journey, even with you, letting go, detaching, not owning every process, every person, every situation. That is almost, it's like vile. Are you kidding me? How can you say that don't own everything, don't take care, you don't own every responsibility or every process? We identify so many things we basically are control freaks. And our minds write a story that the reason why we are where we are is because we are in significant control of every single thing in our company, in our business, in our people, in our process. I now understand that narrative is completely false. I've learned to start letting go and being more conscious and aware of my behaviors and my actions and my relationships. But it's a real struggle because the world out there on this material land, okay, and we're talking about economics and capitalism, it's dog eat fight, man. I mean, you got to fight, you got to win, you got to compete, or you starve and you die. And then on the other side, you're trying to really come from a place of heart and consciousness and awareness. And it doesn't matter what religion people are. Like, if we all believe that we're spiritual beings, the I am, the being's nature of us is we're trying to nurture that aspect. And then we're also trying to nurture this, go get it. I got to win. I can control everything type of relationship with the world. Like, how do we balance this? And we named it, right? We called it the Buddha and the battlefield dichotomy. Like, how does the Buddha operate in the battlefield? Explain this to us, please.
I remember that conversation where I think it was your phrase, by the way, the Buddha and the battlefield and the dichotomy that exists right there. I remember that very clearly, and I love that idea. And just a forewarning, I'm not a Buddha. I don't have any training or certification in Buddhism or anything of that. I do have a lot of respect and reverence, and I love a good Zen koan as a part of an enlightening meditative process. But to get back to that question with all of those pre-frames kind of established, with how do we find the balance between the materialism of achievement and accumulation of wealth and let's put on the spiritual level of fulfillment? Mm-hmm. It really depends on our scorecard. How are we keeping score? If it's just the numbers and the size of our bank account, the size of the company, valuation of the company, things like that, then by all means. And if that does it for you, like I don't think anyone's going to have a problem for you. Like that, go for it. Awesome. Every decision we make causes us to not go down another path. So there's a cost, right? Mm-hmm. So working 60, 80 hours a week, there's a cost to that. Working 20 hours a week on your business, there's a cost to that as well, meaning your business is probably not going to grow as fast as other people who are putting in 60, 80 hours a week. So there's different choices that we make in that regard. I like to go really big picture, like when we're at the end of our lives, looking back, how are we going to measure our success? Because I think we can buy into the fact that it's about maximizing shareholder value and go down that conversation and drive every ounce of productivity out of our week and get focused on that. And that's good too. Nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a place for that. And where do we find the harmony in finding fulfillment, in taking time for self? Entrepreneurs, leaders have a very hard time sometimes taking time for self, because that means that they're not in their job, in their role, getting the best out of the people and being there for the people. But the reality is it's also feedback on our leadership, because we empower the team. We should be, the better we are at being leaders, the less we should actually be doing, and the more we should help be supporting other people. And the idea of servant leadership and allowing others to do. That's where leverage and scale and buying back time to do that. Now, when you're starting up, if you're starting up a business brand new, like it is sacrifice. Like
Right.
there's no off switch. As you build structure and you have teams, then it's time to pull it back. Now, someone could say, hey, I built a business and I was totally balanced in how I did it. Awesome. That's just not the norm. You look at what Elon Musk did. I mean, he's an outlier in every sense of the word. He still to this day sleeps in his office. So he's got entrepreneurial blood running in every pore in his. That doesn't even make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
But his purpose is so strong, right? So it keeps his. Let me ask you.
Totally.
There is and I struggle with this, right? In that, we're always looking to continue to grow. And a lot of listeners on your podcast and on this platform are, high achievers and want to accomplish a lot of great things and achieve more and more and more, whatever that may be for everybody. But one of the things that I've started to question, and it's really a hard question, is that, we all want to grow, we all want to expand, but the whole question of looking for growth, is that egoic? And I was having this conversation with somebody about it can be, but also if there's certain things that put you in a place that you're going to grow, where you don't have to deal with your own psychology. And I'll give you an example. One of my friends was looking to buy a G-Wagon, okay? And so they were like, hey, I really want to buy this brand new Mercedes G-Wagon. And his mindset was, well, what's going to happen is I'm going to buy it and everyone's going to think I shouldn't buy it. And it's like, how is he making that much money? And he must be making more money than us, which makes him feel like he's better than us, or like, what did he do to deserve that? And all this stigma was going through his head. And what we were talking about was, well, actually the G-Wagon was his Buddha. The fact that if he were to buy a G-Wagon, he would have to learn how to deal with that level of criticism or self-thought or mind games or whatever. And so he would expand through that. Does that make sense?
It does.
And that's a materialistic explanation of growth. But I'm saying, generally speaking, we want to grow. We want to build better businesses. We want to have more relationships. We want to get fitter, stronger, healthier. Like, is that by nature egoic?
It's a really great question. I think it's by nature, I would say no. It is in our nature to grow. That is just part of our DNA and what made the human species what it is today, is growing and learning and acquiring and accumulating knowledge for personal growth. The question, I think, on the egoic side is, for what purpose?
So intent.
Right? So what purpose? Yeah, intent. What's your intention? If I have to, in either way, so our behavior and what we do to reward ourselves in buying the G-Wagon or whatever the epitome of success is for ourselves, could be a nice watch, could be a car, trip, whatever. Why are we doing it? If you're getting a private jet, you buy a private jet because you're traveling so much for your work that you have to do it because you're wasting hours in airport that's productive time. Well, that's a functional decision. Mm-hmm. If you're doing it because your lifelong dream has been, I can't wait to pull up in my hometown and show my friends, like, look at me now. You bet you never thought this. Well, then that's obviously repairing some damage and some pain that we were carrying from the past, that we're doing this to prove something, right? Which inherently is unnecessary. I think we'd agree on the outside, but for them, it's a real thing. So why are they growing? If you're growing because you want to help other people and you want to increase your impact and your leadership skills, maybe there's no ego at all. It's all about how can I be a better tool of service to empower my team and empower my community and have a greater impact.
So that takes me to be, do, have, because this is a concept that you've taught me. And, we talk about this in Vistage all the time as well. Be, do, have, be, do, have. And I think a lot of people end up, including me in my own journey, was if I could just have all of these things, if I could build a big business, if I could have enough money, if I could have the car, blah, 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 then I'll do everything in my power to have those things, then I'll create this image or this personality or this person that I want to be. And that equation is completely reverse. And so explain that to us and why that's such a valuable, important tool.
Well, I think you started out very well. I mean, you got the concept is that the having in our society, right? So first, there's a comparison. Like you mentioned, the other person with the G-Wagon and other people is making more money. There's a comparison thing. Comparison is the thief of joy, because I don't care what you have. There's someone out there who has more. Could be a little bit more, could be a lot more. And then we look at that bigger car, bigger house, longer vacation, whatever the case may be. And then whatever we have doesn't look as cool anymore. Now I want the next level of that. And so there's an unending, I've heard it referred to, Jason Silva referred to it as the hedonic treadmill, where we're just going and going and going, trying to get that fulfillment of having things, but it never works. So we have it all. We get the car, we get the watch, we have the vacation, and then we're like, no, it's not about having, maybe I got to go do more things. And so we go on retreats, we go on vacations, we go climb mountains, we go skydiving, we ski in the Alps, we do all these experiences and hoping to feel fulfilled, and they're fun, they're exciting, and we can remember them maybe more than the having things. But then we realize it's not about having, it's not about doing, it's really about who are we meant to be. And that brings us full circle into the values conversation. Mm-hmm. Of what are your values? What is really important to you? What is your scorecard? The values, and I mentioned this earlier, they're the scorecard. At the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of our life, when we look back, we're going to say, did I live in accordance with my values, whatever those were? If money's the top of the values, no hard feelings on it, awesome. Then you're going to evaluate how well you did in that. If it's connecting with your children and setting them up for success, then you're going to evaluate how well you did that based on how well they're doing. But to be fulfilled, having it doesn't cut it, not long term. By the way, you can buy happiness. You probably have bought happiness before. In the moment, It feels good. Do you buy whatever the thing is you want, you buy it and you do have it, but it's fleeting. Same thing with doing. The true happiness, where you can have and do all the things you want, comes from you being all the things that you really value. So people do it backwards. They focus on, let me do all this to have this. Slow it down. Begin with, who am I meant to be, such that by being this person, I will automatically, unconsciously, if you will, do all the things I want to do. And as a byproduct, have all the things I want to have. It's a symptom. The having is a symptom. It's not the outcome.
One of the things that I really love about working with you is you remind us that life is a mirror, right? Everything is about us. We can only control this engine here, this machine, and the mind and the ego and the intellect. Everything is here that within us. If we want to improve our relationships, like what's our relationship with ourselves, right? What's showing up for ourselves when we get triggered and all those things. And as leaders, the more we can become more aware of how we are dealing with this machine, then we can manage and run better businesses. And ultimately, why I love working with you is that your values are so high and so elevated and so clear. If you had a megaphone and you had every major world leader listening to you right now, and not politics, I'm talking about business leaders, value creators, high achievers, what would you tell them?
Great question.
If you had a direct line into their conscious or subconscious, what would you tell them to make the world a better place?
I think I try to keep it simple, get clear on the vision, get clear on the values, because when you have those two, how you get there, it's going to be the path. when we have vision without values, we can get there, but it may not be ecological. The impact is going to be unsustaining, either for ourselves, our teams, or the environment at large. But when we value integrity, we value people, we value honesty, we value authenticity, teamwork, collaboration. We also value our environment and finding that benefit, cost benefit analysis of how do we make sure that we're as green as we possibly can be, then the path we get there will not only get us there, but it'll get us there in a way that we'll feel good about in the end of our days.
So good.
So vision and values.
Let me ask you some questions about you personally. What are you working on right now about yourself, and what are you struggling with?
Struggling with is it's so fun because it's a mirror, like you said. It's all the things that we have just talked about as well. Like it's a never-ending process.
Process, yeah.
It's to scale my company, right? So I have, obviously one-on-one coaching, which is, I love it. So fulfilling. It's deep work. It's incredible. But then taking NLP content and sharing it with the masses and scaling it outward. So for probably the biggest effort ever, other than me doing it, because I've always been that solopreneur who's doing it all, unfortunately, is to scale it outward. So I've actually been working with some teams to help us scale and leverage out the structures that we have for training on NLP all the way through the entire curriculum, and it's all done virtually. So we're beginning with that, and it's a lot of faith and a lot of trust, and you get the right people and you know it. And that's why I'm very thankful with the team that we have, that they're helping me go forward and I'm helping them go forward as well. It's a good collaboration.
Oh my God, I love that, because you need to share your message with the world. You have such an amazing process and awareness, and really helping all leaders, including myself, about how to become better machine managers, right, of this machine here. What do you wish you knew 20 years ago?
20 years ago, I'm thinking back on that. 20 years ago, I think I thought I knew it all. You know what I mean? Like I was 25 back then, and I certainly didn't. But at the time, I figured you just get up. And because I read all the books and I've been to the seminars and I've already been NLP trained and all that kind of stuff. And hey, just pick up the phone book and you start dialing, and you just keep on dialing until you get clients. Well, it turns out that's a terrible strategy. And what I learned was I really needed mentorship back then. I had knowledge, didn't have wisdom, and I didn't have the mentorship that I think I really needed in getting a coach. I've had a coach last 15 years, so not 20 years, but 5 years after that. Took me a while to get the lesson that I needed someone to help me and hold my feet accountable, because we get so easy to get caught up in our own stuff. And I'm certainly no stranger to that as well, because every time you expand that comfort zone and go and do something you've never done before, it's natural to feel uncertainty. It's natural to feel anxiety. And if we're not pushing forward, either through vision or accountability, it's easy to put it off. And so fail forward fast as much as you possibly can, and minimize the failing part by getting a mentor, get a coach, get someone to help you through that process so that you can keep going, but also do it in a strategic way.
That was awesome. I'm going to end it there. That was perfect. Fail forward fast. Address our fears, address our insecurities, and keep moving forward. Well, Dr.
Absolutely.
John Ryan, thanks so much for your time. That was such a great ending. I'm just going to end it there.
Thank you, Ashish. It's absolutely been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, brother.